I rise to oppose this budget, and I rise to do so on behalf of the many, many, countless constituents in my district who have written and spoken to me to tell me how concerned they are, how frightened they are for their future, and that they are ready to leave Connecticut if they could just sell their house. And they're using words like scared, desperate, hopeless. They go pretty far because they're really worried. And these are people who've had a tough time in the last 3 or 4 years. I represent part of a city, and I represent a white-collar town. It's a white-collar town that if the trains worked a little better, you might even say it was sort of a suburb of New York. And in that white-collar town in the last 3 or 4 years, the food pantry has been doing a bang-up business because people aren't doing very well. Some of them have been living paycheck to paycheck, if they had a paycheck. Others haven't had a job in 18 months, 2 years. Maybe they won't ever work again, they think. They don't know how they'll pay their college tuition for their kids, how they'll pay their mortgage, how they'll put gas in their car, how those of them who are small business owners, and there were quite a few, will keep their businesses open and pay the employees they've actually managed to keep. We've talked about that situation a lot at length in the Appropriations Committee. I don't think anyone in here would deny that the situation has been tough for folks in Connecticut. And during that time, by the way, since 2009, they've been having to deal with what was at the time the largest tax increase in Connecticut's history. $1.5 billion voted in on August 31st, 2009. And so these people have told me they've sacrificed enough. They don't want to hear about sacrifice anymore, no matter what kind of sacrifice it is. And yet this budget is telling them they have to sacrifice more. They don't care if the sacrifice is shared. They just want it to stop. They want government to help them catch their breath and get their feet back on the ground so they can get to work and plan for the future. And, isn't that government's job to begin with? To help people, to serve them, to protect them, to get things out of their way so that they have opportunities to work hard to prosper and incentives to excel. So what does this budget do for them? This is their government making a budget so they can have something done for them. Well, it asks them to pay $1.8 billion in taxes next year. And for what? Well, $1 billion of that we understand is surplus. Okay? Well, what else? It taxes them anew on almost everything that they buy, and we've heard about that already. Clothes and shoes under $50, non-prescription drugs, electricity, cars, entertainment, the sales tax, new income taxes, escalating gasoline taxes through the gross receipt tax, the reduction in the property tax exemption, internet sales, luxury goods, and by the way, that gets the middle class too because people work for companies that sell things that have luxury taxes. And then there's the real estate taxes. And realtors tell me every day that the housing market can't bear any more taxes. And let's not forget the estate tax, which hits people who are thinking about where they'll retire, and it's just one more incentive to move if they can manage to sell their way out of Connecticut. And don't forget, the income tax is retroactive to the first of this year. So this is tough for people and their families, but not only them, it's tough for businesses too. They have the country's highest energy costs, the highest insurance costs, high operating costs, the assessment they'll have to pay for the unemployment compensation trust fund. And these new taxes make it even harder for them to stay afloat. It just isn't the way to make jobs come back to Connecticut again. I can't vote for this budget for a great big reason, because if I do, I won't have an answer this July when my constituents get that first paycheck that withholds their taxes retroactively, and they're shocked. And they call me to say, what happened? Why did you do this to me? I can't tell them I thought it was fair to ask them to make a whole new set of sacrifices. They've made so much effort for so long, and it's government's turn now. My constituents, Mr. Speaker, are appalled. They've said stop. Stop spending so we can stop taxing to cover it. We've just celebrated the latest tax-free day in the country yesterday. We have a 9.1% unemployment rate and the heaviest tax burden in the country. This budget doesn't just hit people hard. It hits them hard when they're down already. And I don't care how they share the sacrifice. That's just not fair. My constituents expect me to vote against this budget, Mr. Speaker, and I will. Thank you.